Hey everyone, we're live. I'm Karlyn Borysenko. This is Decode the Left. I'm doing these live streams over on my Substack, which is Karlyn, Karlyn.substack.com. As a reminder, please make sure you download the Substack app so you can get notified when I go live. These live streams also do get updated to the Decode the Left podcast, and so we'll have the archive there. And I'm just doing these podcasts to be able to download some quick thoughts about whatever I'm thinking about at the time. And I appreciate you guys joining and coming and hanging out, and I hope you're enjoying it. Please feel free to chat in, ask me any questions you like, of course, or if you're listening to this after the fact, please leave a comment. And if you appreciate the work I'm doing decoding the left from a completely unbiased, non-politically influenced perspective, make sure you sign up on the Substack for $8 a month, $80 a year. I will always present you the full evidence so that you can decide for yourself what to think. I don't really care what your politics are. I'm just going to show you what the left is doing. I will show you the evidence. I will show you the receipts, and then you can decide what to do with it at the end of the day. You know, an interesting thing that I've kind of been tiptoeing around, but now we're going to go at it full force. I have always said that the right is actually the biggest enemy in fighting the left. Because the right pretends to solve problems that they don't actually solve. And then they go out to their constituents, conservatives, Republicans, MAGA voters, whatever, and they say, guys, look, we solved this problem. We're winning. We're winning. But when you actually look at what they did, they didn't solve the problem at all. The problem is still going on. The problem has not been fixed. In fact, the problem in many cases is getting worse. I'll give you a concrete example of this. One of the things I did very early on in my activism journey was back in 2021. I went around the state of New Hampshire trying to teach people what critical race theory was, because New Hampshire was one of the first states after Trump left office, after the first administration, to introduce a critical race theory bill, to ban critical race theory in the classroom. And so I was trying to go around teaching everyone what it was, because at that time, back in early 2021, no one knew what it was. I mean, I was like one of the few people that was like beating the drum talking about this. And the bill ended up passing, but the bill got completely watered down. And I was screaming about this. You can go back and look at the archive. I was screaming about this. I said, the Republicans in New Hampshire destroyed this bill. It's not going to ban critical race theory. It's not going to ban it. I was screaming up and down about the fact that Chris Sununu, who was governor at the time in New Hampshire, worked with his Republican cronies to completely water down the anti-CRT bill, to make it completely ineffective. And it was never going to ban critical race theory, but the Republicans passed the bill anyway. And then the Republicans said, hey, look, guys, we solved the problem. We're winning. We're winning. Well, not long after that, less than a year later, and this is all on my Substack, it's all in the archive, you can go and find it, I exposed a school district in New Hampshire that literally had on their homepage that they were teaching critical race theory. I went through the process that was dictated by the anti-CRT bill that passed in New Hampshire. And guess what the state of New Hampshire told me they were going to do? Absolutely nothing. Because I wasn't a parent in the school district, and therefore I was not personally aggrieved by it. And therefore, ergo, they didn't give a flying F if the school literally had on their homepage that they were teaching critical race theory, because I wasn't a parent in the school district, so I couldn't do anything about it. To this day, that school district is still teaching critical race theory. To this day, that law goes completely unenforced in the state of New Hampshire, but Republicans in the GOP in New Hampshire swing it around to say, hey, look, we banned critical race theory. No, they didn't. They didn't do shit. It's still being taught every single day in New Hampshire right now. Same in other states that have passed anti-CRT bills, by the way. You look at the anti-CRT bill in Texas, doesn't ban critical race theory at all in any way. And this happens because Republicans don't actually understand what they're talking about. They just understand their clickbait bullshit propaganda. So they write the bills around the clickbait bullshit propaganda, not around how critical race theory is actually being taught, because God forbid they do anything strategically, right? So this is just one example of one of the many, 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 many instances that I've had on the right where they claim they're winning. They claim that they're doing things that are good. They claim that the problem is solved. And you actually kind of look under the hood and you're like, you haven't actually solved the problem at all. You actually haven't done anything other than create a sign saying, we're winning, high five, bro, we're winning. That's all they're doing. So let's talk about the new college in Florida. I come from the world of higher education. I mean, people know I'm an organizational psychologist. Well, yeah, I am an organizational psychologist, but where did I get inspired to become an organizational psychologist? In higher education. because I was working at Dartmouth University or Dartmouth College. They demand you call it college, I guess. I was working at Dartmouth College, and this was a long time ago. And on staff at Dartmouth College, they had a director of professional development that was an industrial organizational psychologist, and she took me under her wing and she mentored me. And that was what made me interested in industrial organizational psychology, which is what I did my PhD in psychology in. It was all while I was in higher education. I worked in higher education for 10 years. I've worked in admissions offices in higher education. I've worked in marketing offices. I've worked in fundraising offices. I worked at a consultancy that I consulted with all colleges all over the country. I've done consulting just on my own through my own corporate training with boards at colleges, with presidents' cabinets at colleges, stuff like that. I did this for years and years and years and years and years. I understand the world of higher education intimately. So when Christopher Rufo, who many of you know, got put on the board of trustees of the new college in Florida by Ron DeSantis, I actually was really excited about this, and I thought that this was a really good thing. I think by and large, Christopher Rufo's work has actually been pretty good. I do. I think it was better a couple years ago than it is today. Same with James Lindsay, by the way. James Lindsay's work was great in 2020 and in the beginning of 2021. It's gone to shit now. I could kind of say the same thing of Chris Rufo. I really liked Chris Rufo back in the day. I liked a lot of stuff he was doing. And then it just got shillier and shillier and shillier. And I'll keep my mouth shut to a certain extent. But I've kind of reached the point, especially with what just happened that I'm going to talk about, that I'm not going to keep my mouth shut about this anymore, and I'm no longer going to sugarcoat this. So, Christopher Rufo, along with other people, got put on the board of trustees at the new College of Florida. They swore up and down, we're going to make this the anti-woke college. It's going to be the anti-woke college, the anti-woke college. This is all a really good thing. In my mind, when this was all happening, I was like, oh man, if they can actually figure this out, if they can figure out how to de-woke a college, that could become a model for colleges around the country. That is a really, really positive thing that you want to support, and you want to give people space to do that. Higher education doesn't change overnight. It just doesn't. And so I was like, okay, well, just leave it alone. Just pay attention to it. And there were a couple things that happened really early on that I was excited about. They shut down their gender studies program. They made this big show of throwing out all their DEI books. They all went in the dumpster. They posted the pictures over Twitter. They went viral, all these pictures of all these DEI books in the dumpsters. The students were crying. They were like, why'd you throw out all the books? And they were picking through the dumpster to try to find the books they wanted to take them home with them. So I was like all on board with this. I thought it was a good thing. I didn't really pay attention at all to New College because I was like, that's not a problem I need to worry about. I cover the far left. There's more than enough on the left to review that I don't need to be worried about something that actually looks like it's in okay shape, right? By the way, New College is a public taxpayer funded university. So I was like, okay, well, here's like a shining light that maybe we can go back to. Then something funny happened this year. And it's like when you start to identify problems with the narrative that the right is shilling, it comes in little things. It comes in little things that you're kind of like that are easy to dismiss, where you notice something and you're like, that's not right. That's not aligned with what I've seen. That's not a correct explanation for that. I know that's a blatant lie. Why are you doing that? Why are you telling these white lies or what you think are white lies? So back in February, the first instance happened with New College of Florida where I was like, what is actually going on at New College of Florida? What happened was Judith Butler was invited to speak at New College of Florida. For people who don't know, Judith Butler is like the godmother of queer theory. She is one of basically the people that she didn't invent it, it was around before her, but like she really popularized queer theory. Judith Butler popularized the idea of gender performativity, which is that gender is not innate, it is not biological. We perform our gender. Gender performativity is the basis of Drag Queen Story Hour. Drag Queen Story Hour is all about teaching kids that we perform gender, that gender is not real, that you can change your gender like changing an outfit, like gender is a spectrum. And that's what Drag Queen Story Hour is really about. It's about teaching kids that gender is not real because they want to abolish the gender binary. The gender binary means men and women. They believe these are social constructs created by capitalism. And the very best way to abolish gender is not to outlaw it. You can't outlaw it. You can't bring down a law and say, there will be no more gender. You can't do that. The very best way to outlaw gender is to teach kids when they are too young to defend themselves, when their brains are not even that their brains are fully formed. If you teach a kid something before they are 8 years old, that idea cements in their head and it's basically impossible to get it out. We have these things called mirror neurons that when we're young, those neurons are firing and we mirror everything we see. This is why young kids learn information so quickly. The information they learn gets cemented in their heads. That's why you got to be careful with what you say to kids before they're 8 years old. The information gets cemented in their heads and it's near impossible to get it out. So if you're doing Drag Queen Story Hour and you're teaching kids gender is a performance, you create an entire generation of kids. And by the way, that's not being taught just in Drag Queen Story Hour, that's being taught in public schools today to young kids. If you teach kids that idea young, it cements in their head, and then they grow up with the idea that gender is not real. That's how you abolish the gender binary. You do it slowly, the battle of inches, over the course of time. So this whole idea is advanced by Judith Butler. Judith Butler is one of the preeminent gender studies people in the world. And for some reason, past my understanding, Judith Butler was invited to give a talk at the New College of Florida, the supposed anti-woke college, the college that was fighting back against woke ideology. She was invited to give a whole talk in February. I watched the entire thing on my channel. It was not good. It wasn't good at all. She got no pushback for her ideas. And you guys can go watch it. Don't take my word for it. Just go watch it yourself. It's on their YouTube channel. You can also watch my reaction to it where I break down what she's saying. You can find all this on my YouTube channel. The professor that was like moderating that I guess it was not a debate. The professor that was moderating that discussion didn't push back on Judith Butler's ideas at all. This is supposedly at the anti-woke college. The professor was like, Judith, you are so brave and you are so amazing and you are so incredible. And aren't we lucky to hear from you and all your crazy bullshit ideas, Judith? They were kissing her ass up and down. She got no pushback. She advanced her crazy gender performativity shit the entire speech, and she ended the speech saying, and I think New College should really bring back the gender studies program, and that's why I'm here to make the case that New College, the anti-woke college in Florida, should bring back the gender studies program. And she got no pushback at all. And the crowd is cheering, and you can hear students cheering in the background. And so we watched this happen in February, and we were like, what the fuck? Now, I probably wouldn't have done anything more with this. Oh, by the way, Chris Rufo, who is again on the board of trustees at New College of Florida, tweeted about this talk at the time, and he said, I heard this was a rigorous discussion. And I saw that tweet that Rufo said. Yeah, Reagan said in the chat, Chris Rufo praised the event. Yeah, he did. He said, I heard this was a rigorous discussion on Twitter. Now, at the time I said, and you'll see me say this on the stream. I was like, has Chris Rufo watched this? Has Chris Rufo actually seen this? Because I was actually giving him some grace. I was giving him some grace to say he's a really busy person. People on the board of trustees don't necessarily see everything that happens at the college. But why the fuck is Chris Rufo on Twitter praising Judith Butler and the talk she gave at the New College in Florida? It made no sense. I just watched the whole talk. The talk was not good. Judith Butler lied up and down that entire talk with no pushback. And we can even go into the idea of like, why was she even invited in the first place? Could you not have found another person to bring to campus that wasn't Judith Butler? Could you have found, I don't know, someone who hasn't spent their entire career trying to convince people that gender isn't real? Could you have found someone that maybe wasn't a revolutionary socialist? to bring to campus to influence students at the anti-woke college in Florida? Could you maybe have done that? But you know what? Here's the thing. I probably would have forgotten about all of this because I wasn't it was a little thing. It was like, this is really weird. Why is this happening? But Judith Butler said some other stuff in that talk. And we started watching a bunch of Judith Butler speeches on my channel because we were like, Judith Butler is basically starting a PR campaign. That was how I read the New College in Florida talk. Judith Butler was starting a PR campaign to push a very specific narrative. And so I basically started following Judith Butler around and I started watching every talk she was giving. Well, couple months after she gave this talk at New College of Florida, the anti-woke college, Judith Butler does a talk in Chicago at a venue called Haymarket House. Haymarket House is a revolutionary socialist venue. It's hosted by Haymarket Books, which is the largest socialist book publisher in the United States. And we watched again this whole talk on my channel. You can go and find it. And in that talk, in the middle of it, Judith Butler said, and I went to the New College of Florida, and guess what? The bookstore bought 250 copies of my new gender book and gave it out to everyone that came to my talk for free. And at that point, I was like, what the fuck? New College of Florida? It's one thing to bring someone to campus. It is a completely different thing to buy 250 copies of that person's brand new gender studies book, in which, by the way, the topic of Judith Butler's new gender studies book, which is called Who's Afraid of Gender, is all about all of the people who are attacking gender ideology and how they're all crazy because who would really even be afraid of this concept? It is one of the most anti-Chris Rufo books that can actually be written. It's one of the most like, if Chris Rufo is against gender ideology, this book is against him. This book is against Donald Trump. This book is against every single person who says gender is real and it's a man and a woman and there are only two. That's what Judith Butler's book is about. And yet the supposed anti-woke college, the New College of Florida, bought 250 copies of this book and gave it away to students for free. And there were that talk was filled with students, by the way. Like, so people might say, well, no, Karlyn, she said that they gave it away for people who went to the talk. Well, the talk was at New College of Florida for the students, and you could blatantly hear that there were students all over the place in that talk. So yeah, they bought 250 copies of Judith Butler's gender studies books, like 6 months, less than a year after they made this big public show of literally throwing all the DEI books on campus in the dumpster. So that was the second thing, where I was like, what's going on at the New College of Florida? But even still, with Chris Rufo, I was like, I don't know that he actually knows what's going on because he's a busy person. I don't actually expect him to keep day-to-day tabs on everything that happens at New College. So what I did is I made a clip of Judith Butler talking about how they bought 250 copies of your gender studies book, and I put it on Twitter, and I DM'd it to Chris Rufo immediately. And I was like, what's this? He followed me on Twitter at the time. He's followed me for years. Doesn't follow me anymore, and I'm going to tell you why. So I DM'd it to Chris Rufo. And I said, yeah, this was a mistake bringing her to campus, bro. He had the chance to talk about this privately. Chris Rufo literally just answered my DM and said, oh shit, I didn't know about that. I'm going to look into that. I would have dropped the whole thing. Then and there. Honest to God, I would have. Because, like, monitoring the bullshit at the New College of Florida is not actually what I want to spend my time doing. And if he had just said, yeah, I didn't have anything to do with that, I didn't know about that, and I'm going to take care of that, I'm going to call someone's going to get fired over that stupid decision, I would have dropped the whole thing. But he didn't do that. He didn't do that. He didn't say anything about the anti-woke college in Florida buying 250 copies of the new book of the most infamous gender studies person in the country and giving it away to students for free. It was almost like he didn't actually give a fuck. So I've had a busy couple of months. Obviously, I've been covering a lot of stuff. I've been infiltrating a lot of events. This hasn't been something I've been harping on necessarily. But every once in a while, Chris Rufo would post something on Twitter, something, excuse me, very narrative driven because he's a politician on Twitter. He's going to run for office someday, I promise you. He's a politician. He has a message, he has a narrative. What plays well politically is all he really cares about. But every once in a while, he would post something, and I go into his replies and I go, "Hey, Chris, what's going on with New College of Florida buying 250 copies of Judith Butler's gender studies book? Any comment?" Never answered. People in my community started replying and tagging him. What the fuck is going on with this? Will you make any statement at all about this? Never answered. Well, Chris Rufo this week is taking a victory lap because he got the new incoming president of the University of Florida fired because the new president of Florida, University of Florida, was embracing DEI. And listen, I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing. I will say that I called that out a week and a half before Chris Rufo was talking about it. But I don't think that that's actually that bad of a thing. But where I took a little offense happened today because Chris Rufo literally reposted someone saying, Chris Rufo's on the board of trustees at the New College of Florida, and he took the time out to monitor the University of Florida. And I responded to that and I was like, maybe you should be focused on the New College of Florida, Chris, because why on earth did they buy 250 copies of Judith Butler's new gender studies book and give it away to students for free? What's going on? So he's literally kind of patting himself on the back saying, I'm not only on the board of trustees at the New College of Florida, I'm also monitoring all the other colleges in Florida. Well, you're not actually monitoring the New College of Florida. You're not actually doing your job as a member of the board of trustees if they're buying 250 copies of Judith Butler's gender studies book and giving it away to students for free. So I decided to take it up a notch. Now, I've been tagging the New College of Florida in these posts I've been making. They've never said anything. So I went on the New College of Florida's website and I found their PR team and I sent them a little email. And it's pinned to the top of my Twitter right now. You can find it there if you want to see. I'm doing everything extremely transparently. You will see every communication I have with the New College of Florida on my Twitter, and I'll post it on the Substack too if I need to. I emailed their communications office today and I said, I have Judith Butler on video saying when she spoke to campus, you bought 250 copies of her gender studies book to give away to students for free. I linked them to the tweet with the clip. I said, I would like to know the following. 1, is this true? 2, where did the money to fund this purchase come from, and was it from the taxpayers? 3, why did you allow this, given your publicity around throwing out all DEI on campus? 4, who signed this contract? What is their role at the college? 5, has anyone been fired as a result of this, given your position as the anti-woke college? 6, are you planning to bring more queer Marxists to campus to speak in the future? How does this impact your brand as the anti-woke college? I said, I'll be publishing that I messaged you on my X account with 81,000 followers, roughly, and I will likewise also publish any response you send to me in full with your side. And I really want to emphasize that. If the New College of Florida responds to me, I will publish their response in full so that everyone can see what's going on. I will not photocopy. Who does that anymore? I will not Photoshop it. I will not block anything out. I will not take anything out of context. I will publish their response in full. I said I will also publish if you do not respond. And I will also be making a public records request to your general counsel. That was the first email that I sent. The second email I sent was to their general counsel, which is where you send public records requests. Because now I actually want to know what happened. Chris Rufo doesn't want to handle the situation like an adult. He doesn't want to make a comment when he's patting himself on the back. I am so important and so amazing that I'm on the board of trustees at the New College in Florida, and I was monitoring the University of Florida too. He's not taking care of his own shit. Okay, I want to know what happened. So I sent their general counsel a request and I said, I would like to make a public records request for all documents and electronic communications related to Judith Butler's talk on your campus on February 18th, 2025, and any agreement in which you purchased 250 copies of her book to distribute to students. Here's the website for the talk in question. The website for the talk in question, by the way, is currently on the homepage of their website. It's called the Socratic Stage. You can go on New College of Florida's website and find it right now. I posted that to Twitter as well. Another funny thing happened today. I started trolling around New College of Florida's website, and wouldn't you know it, at the so-called anti-woke college, and I posted this on Twitter too, on the pages for their social sciences program and their sociology program, they had queer studies listed as a recent course. Let me just make sure I have the language explicitly correct. I have a screenshot on the website. Recent courses, queer studies. This is at the Anti-Woke College of Florida. So this was a really interesting thing that happened because I posted that screenshot on Twitter. And again, I said, hi, Chris Rufo, follow-up question. Why in the ever-loving F is New College of Florida offering queer studies courses for students under recent courses? Is this what anti-woke looks like? This is in the social sciences division. And it was also in the sociology division. And wouldn't you know it, between the time I posted that on Twitter and about an hour later when I was streaming live on the internet, magically, the New College of Florida updated their website to remove queer studies. This is one of the fastest website updates in the history of college website updates, I promise you. Again, I worked in higher education. I worked with web departments. I literally, where is it? Where is my stapler? I just had it here a moment ago. Oh no, I've lost it. It's on my desk somewhere and I can't find it. Oh no. Anyway, I have, where the heck did I do? Oh, I know where it is. I put it down here. I know where it is. Okay. I literally have an award that I got when I was working in higher education web groups. This is from 2011. This is the High Ed Web Conference, is the conference for higher education web professionals. The Red Stapler is an award they give out to people who give really good presentations at their conferences, and I won one, and those are hard to win, okay? Uh-oh, I'm unstable. Hang on, I want to make sure people can hear me. I just got to mess. Okay, I'm back. We're back. So, trust me when I tell you that when some random person tweets something on the internet, higher ed web departments don't hop to and update their website within an hour unless it's really important, okay? Why the fuck did New College of Florida find it so important that within an hour they had removed the queer studies bit from their website? Now, listen, if there's legitimately no queer studies going on at New College of Florida, fine. But why was it listed under recent courses earlier today? And guess what? So the mistake I made, and I will never make this mistake again, is I did not archive the website before I posted about it on Twitter because I made the assumption that there was no way they were going to update their website that quickly, and they did. But lucky for us, the Wayback Machine, the Internet Archive, had archived those two websites in March. So we may not have it from today in June of 2025, but I have those websites archived from March of 2025 with queer studies in recent courses. So there ain't no getting out of this for them. They can delete things off that website all they want. It is archived, and I will never make this mistake again. I will be archiving every single thing from the New College of Florida from now on. Every single thing we find immediately before I post about it on the internet. I should have done it anyway. I was out of practice. What can I say? So we have that. But another thing we found is on the same website, they actually have social justice listed as a possible career track for their graduates. So that was another thing. I'll put my stapler back. And the last thing that really got my attention is that today Christopher Rufo unfollowed me on Twitter. He did. He did. I'm so sad that he unfollowed me on Twitter. So let's review. Christopher Rufo is perfectly fine with Judith Butler, godmother of queer theory, coming to campus to shill gender studies on campus, to beg the new College of Florida to reinstate their gender studies program. He's perfectly fine with faculty members at the new College of Florida saying, Judith, you are so great and so amazing. We are so lucky to have you here, Judith. Your ideas are so amazing. It's so important the students hear these ideas, Judith. He's totally fine with that. He thinks it's a great talk and a rigorous discussion. He is completely fine, apparently, with the new College of Florida purchasing 250 copies of that woman's gender book and giving it away to students for free. Totally fine. He's perfectly fine with queer studies being offered to students at the so-called anti-woke college. He's perfectly fine with all of that. Doesn't address it at all, doesn't comment on it, couldn't even send me a DM in private to say, Karlyn, I'm aware of this and I'm fucking working on it. Literally, that's all he would have had to say to me. I'm not an unreasonable person. If Chris Rufo, and by the way, Chris Rufo has my fucking phone number too. He also could have called me. He could have texted me. He could have DM'd me on Twitter. All he had to do was reach out to me in some way to say, Karlyn, I'm aware of the fucking problem and I'm going to do something about it. Can you please just stop blasting me on Twitter? And I would have been like, okay, bro. Monitoring Chris Rufo and whatever's going on at New College of Florida is not actually what I want to spend my time doing. I would have been fine with that. Instead, I got nothing. Over and over and over again. And so, at some point, you have to say, why is Chris Rufo so afraid of me seeing the records from the new College of Florida? Because I think that that's actually what happened to piss him off. I don't think Chris Rufo's pissed off about a clip on the internet. I think Chris Rufo is pissed off because I requested the records from the new College of Florida. I think Chris Rufo's pissed off because he damn well knows that no matter what they try to charge me for these records, and they could possibly ask for thousands of dollars for these records, I will crowdfund it because there's more people who are interested in this than just me. There's more people who want to know what's going on here than just me. And we will get their records. We will get the contract that they made with Judith Butler. We will know who signed that contract. We will know who signed off on it. And guess what? We get all their emails too. This is a public university. I requested all electronic communications that they have had within their emails to talk about Judith Butler in this gender studies talk. We're going to get all of it. And by the way, if the new College of Florida comes back and they quote me an exorbitant amount for these records, then we're going to know that there are a lot of fucking emails. There are a lot of emails in which they're talking about this. Does Chris Rufo have a new College of Florida email address? Because if he does, anything from that email address, I can get through a public records request. So why would he unfollow me? Why would he be silent? Why wouldn't he just act like a normal human being and privately say to me, Karlyn, I'm aware of the fucking problem, I'm going to fix it? If he's so interested in solving the problem, then why wouldn't he just do that? That's the path of least resistance. That's the easiest thing to do. Carrie says, curious what the book unit cost is? Well, we're going to find that out. We're going to find that out. A gazillion bucks to a page to fund a kickback? Yeah, we're going to find that out. Suzanne says over $4,000 for those books. That sounds about right. And Judith Butler gets a royalty on every single one of those books too. So that put thousands of dollars in Judith Butler's back pocket. How nice for her. So my point is this. I am not convinced that the new College of Florida is actually the anti-woke college in Florida. I think it's a giant fuck-off PR stunt. Yeah, they may have gotten rid of their gender studies program, and that's a good thing, and we should celebrate that. Yeah, they pissed off a lot of leftists, and that's a good thing, and we should celebrate that. But I'm not interested in creating a farce. I'm not interested in putting on a good show. I think one of the reasons that Chris Rufo is so reticent to engage on this is he knows he can't bullshit me. He knows I don't want anything from him. He knows I know my shit. And he knows there is nothing he can do to manipulate me if I sniff something out that's going on. And so he's just backing away quietly. And there's nothing he can do to control me because now I'm actually interested. I was not actually that interested in February. I was like, this is more annoying than everything else. But all of the obfuscation. Yeah, Reagan says it also signals to the general public to not worry when in reality the issue persists. That is the problem. Like Republicans think if they just, it's about morale and we should make everyone happy. We're winning, we're winning. Well, if you're constantly telling people you're winning when you're not, you actually end up creating more problems because the left is allowed to operate completely unopposed, and the right is lying to their audiences, claiming that nothing is wrong when there is, in fact, still a problem. And so their audiences believe them because the audiences want to believe them. This is why the right is so misinformed about the left. You know, I had a certain amount of respect for Chris Rufo just because of things that happened years ago. But at some point, you have to call a spade and you have to say, things have changed, bro. And I was perfectly reasonable, and I gave you every single opportunity to address this situation. I didn't complain when I sent you stuff from the socialism conference that you then used on your social media without crediting me. Because he did do that, by the way. I never talked about this publicly. Should I tell you guys this story publicly? I went undercover at the socialism conference in 2023. As you guys know, you can find the archives of it on the Substack if you don't know that. I went undercover at the socialism conference in 2023. One of the sessions I recorded at that conference was explicitly about Florida. And one of the people that was on one of those panels was explicitly talking about Chris Rufo and the new College of Florida. And so after that conference, I did release that audio recording of that guy talking about Chris Rufo in Florida, but I also sent it to him privately. And I said, here's the recording that if he ever used it publicly, he would at least give me credit for being the one who recorded it. Oh, the internet, I'm getting an unstable connection again. Hang on. Hang on, I want to make sure this records. Give it a second. Okay, we're back. We're back. So when I sent Chris Rufo the recording of the Socialism 2023 conference where he was mentioned, I kind of hoped that he would just do the right thing without me asking. And I kind of hoped that if he used it publicly, he would at least give me credit for being the one that went undercover at the event at my own expense, put myself in danger being around 400 revolutionary socialists for a whole weekend. I kind of hoped he would just give me credit saying, hat tip Karlyn for recording this. Well, he didn't do that. He took the recording. He had someone else edit it. He posted it on his Twitter account with no mention of where he got it at all. And I never talked about that, but it really pissed me off. It really pissed me off. And I was like, you know what? Just keep the peace. Whatever. Be the bigger person. This is why you're never the bigger person on the internet. I was like, be the bigger person, Karlyn. By the way, he was not the only conservative influencer who stole my content from that conference and reappropriated it for their own use, which really sucks. Because it cost me thousands of dollars to go undercover at that conference. I got really good content, and they were more interested in getting clicks and clout on their fucking profiles than actually educating and informing their audience and crediting the independent journalist, me, who was the one that got that content in the first place. Because none of them had it, and it does not exist without me. So that really pissed me off, and I never talked about it. But I always kind of kept that in my back pocket, and after that, I never trusted Chris Rufo again. I was like, well, that's the test. The test for me is, are you going to do something? Are you going to do the right thing because it's the right thing? It would have been nothing for him to say, hat tip Karlyn for recording this. It was a throwaway tweet. It was just an antagonistic, trolly tweet about he was pissed off at the person at the conference, whatever. But that always stuck with me. I was like, okay, so you're willing to take my content that I gave you out of the goodness of my heart to use. And you're not even going to credit me for it, asshole? By the way, you guys know that I'm the reason that Chris Rufo was even in this game, right? I was the one who broke the story that he followed up on that launched him into this space. That was the Washington Post reached out to me to try to get information from me that they were going to use against him. And no, I stood up and I had his back and I said, no, you're not going to do that today. I'm not going to throw him under the bus. I've always been very diplomatic to him. And even with this, the New College of Florida buying 250 copies of Judith Butler's gender studies book, after Chris Rufo and all of his friends promised this was going to be the anti-woke college, even then, I have played this diplomatically for months. Gave him every opportunity to just make a comment saying, hey, I'm aware of this now. Thanks for letting me know. I'm going to fix the problem. Hey, thanks. Someone's going to get fired. Okay. And I would have been like, okay, thank you. But now I want to know what's actually going on. Now I want to know. Because I think there's more going on there than we understand. And I'm going to get the public records and we're going to see. And I'm going to publish all of them. If I crowdfund, and again, I don't know how much money that's going to be, but I'm going to be coming to you guys after I get the quote. I'm going to say, can we just crowdfund this? Can we all see what's going on at the New College of Florida, please? That would be really good for everyone. Are they really the anti-woke college? I will publish every single thing I get publicly and we will operate completely transparently because that's the way it should be. Suzanne says, don't play bigger person anymore. Nah, you can't. You can't. You can't. And it's unfortunate, right? Because in my heart of hearts, I do actually want to be the bigger person. In my heart of hearts, people say to me all the time, isn't it just more important that the story gets out there? Well, yes, it is important that these people back in an instant if they get the chance to. My work costs money to produce, guys. It costs money to do this stuff. I spend all my time researching this stuff, writing this stuff. This is my job. It is a job. And when people steal things from me, or people undermine what I'm doing, or they attack my character needlessly, they spread smear campaigns, they spread defamatory lies, that impacts my ability to do this work. It impacts my ability to fund this work. It impacts my ability to do the very best coverage and breakdowns and educations of the far left on the internet. So at some point, you have to say, no, motherfucker, I'm not going to be the bigger person anymore. You are the one that literally made a career claiming to care about this problem, Chris Rufo. You are the one that is on the board of directors at the New College of Florida, Chris Rufo, or the Board of Trustees, excuse me. You are the one that is on the Board of Trustees at the New College of Florida. I don't have any power over the New College of Florida other than I can tweet about it on the internet and tag your asses every single time, and I can get my audience to go into your replies and tag you and annoy you until you tell us what we want to know, or you can continue to stay quiet, and that will speak volumes. Not making a choice and being silent is a choice. Reagan says, I'm extremely disappointed fame or trying to become a politician goes to your head. It's unacceptable. Yeah, he's obviously trying to be a politician. I'm 100% sure he's going to run for office someday, which I would be fine with. In actuality, I think he's probably more of a net positive than negative. But when he does this smarmy fucking shit, I'm like, bro, you're going to go right into the conservative establishment and you're going to be like every other do nothing politician that's just like everyone else in Washington, D.C. that we don't like currently. Like, if he's pulling this shit now, don't think he's not going to do this when he's a politician, okay? Brown Barbaloot says, I'm interested in seeing what's in those emails, how many Marxists are working there. Yeah, I'm interested in that too. I'm interested in that too. So that's kind of what's going on. I'm going to be intermittently checking in with the new College of Florida. I don't think I'm going to monitor them all the time, but I'm certainly going to add them to my dashboard. I'm going to make sure I'm paying attention to what they're doing. I'm going to start looking at their faculty members. I'm going to start seeing what they're saying online. I'm going to start paying attention to the student groups that are organizing around New College of Florida. I want to know what's going on. The other thing I noticed about their website is very locked down right now. So I feel like they've removed a lot of stuff from their website, or they've locked it all down where like they don't want information coming out. Again, I worked in college web design for a long time. I know what it is. I know what they do. And the sense I got in just trolling around their website, just like not even taking it that seriously, is I was like, they're really trying to control the flow of information. And I can understand that to a certain extent. They've been attacked by the left a lot. So, I mean, maybe that's the reason, but why don't they want people to know what's happening there? Could it be that this is just a giant PR exercise and that none of it's real? Yet another lie from the conservative establishment. Oh, goody, must be a day that ends in a Y, right? So we're going to keep an eye on them. And I want that. I want those messages, and I want that records request. And I want to know how big that records request is going to be. And I will crowdfund it, and we will get that information. And then we'll be able to see what's actually going on. And whether or not Chris Rufo is following me on Twitter makes no difference. And if he blocks me on Twitter, that says even more about him. I will still be going into I'm still following him. I will still be going into his replies whenever I feel like it and posting about this. If he blocks me, I will have other members of my community do it, and he will show his true colors about what he wants to hide from the general public. And if Chris Rufo blocks me for pointing out correctly that the college that he's on the board of trustees of bought 250 copies of Judith Butler's gender studies book and gave it away to students for free a couple months ago. If he blocks me for telling the truth, that says literally everything we need to know about him. He just should have addressed it like an adult in private when I brought it up months ago. But here we are. I take full credit, or at least partial credit, for being the person that drove James Lindsay insane. James Lindsay was not being vilified on the internet when I started my mission of either getting James to tell the truth about what the left was doing to his audience or shutting up and going away. That was the goal. James Lindsay was lying to people for years about what the left was doing. I figured it out because what he was saying about the left was completely unhinged from the real world evidence that I have. And so I went on a mission to encourage James gently at first. Can you please just tell the truth about the left? Can you please just tell the truth? Because a public being massively misinformed is a problem to me. If the public is not properly educated and properly informed about what the left is actually doing, then we will lose to them. I don't want to lose to the left. They may not care. James Lindsay may not give a fuck. Christopher Rufo may not give a fuck. I actually do care about this. I don't want the left to win. I don't want them to get their revolution. And I think they're a lot closer to it than people think. And so I started at first gently nudging James Lindsay, saying, can you please just do this? Can you please just do this? We tried showing him evidence. We tried showing him videos. We tried being reasonable. We maybe mocked him a little bit just to make fun of him, but it's the internet. That's what you do. We were still pretty lackluster at first. And he didn't do it. And not only didn't he do it, he blocked me in my community, started spreading these horrible lies about me to try to attack my character, to try to discredit my work. And that's when we knew that James Lindsay didn't give a flying fuck about the things he claimed to care about. And that's when we started going at him harder and harder and harder and harder until he started all this woke right lunacy and then became insane. Now, ultimately, I won that battle. James Lindsay is no longer teaching people about the left. He's just going on all these shows complaining about the woke right, the woke right, the woke, which is a made up thing, by the way. It's not even real. James has made all this up because he's lost his fucking mind. And I take at least partial credit, and my community takes credit for being the people that drove James insane. What does this have to do with Rufo? Do you think I won't do it again? Do you really think that if I see a bad actor in the space that is pretending that the new College of Florida is anti-woke, that is sending these shilly narrative-driven messages to his Twitter followers that aren't even based in reality, that is lying to the public about what is going on, do you think I won't do it again? Do you think I won't do it again? And just so people know, the James Lindsay thing didn't happen overnight. We worked on that for a year and a half, just slowly. I very much enjoy the Chinese water torture method of driving people insane, where we do drip, drip, drip. One thing here, drip. Another thing there, drip. We've got someone in the chat saying the world is full of people misleading the public. Your incredible talent is being wasted feuding with right-wing influencers. You're greater than all of that. Hey, Hazel, you are the reason that the right is so misinformed about what's going on. Congratulations. This is what the conservatives do. They want to protect their heroes. Oh my God, don't point out that James Lindsay's lying to millions of people. You're just infighting on the right. Don't talk about how James Lindsay and Chris Rufo are lying to millions of people. You're infighting on the right. Fuck you. Your ideas are supporting the miseducation and the misinformation of millions of people. Your ideas about don't call out people when they're doing bad things. This is why the right loses all the time, and I will not take part in it. I am not on your tribe. I am not on Team James Lindsay. I am not on Team Christopher Rufo. I'm on Team Decode the Left. I am on Team I don't want them to fucking win. James Lindsay doesn't want to play on the team of beating the left. So he gets treated with the disdain that he deserves. Christopher Rufo wants to pretend the new College of Florida is anti-woke, but it's not. He gets what he fucking deserves. Don't ever tell me to not call out bad actors on the right. I will tell you to go fuck yourself and then to go find someone that's better at this than I am. Spoiler, you won't be able to. And Hazel, I haven't seen you commenting on any of the things that I've done exposing the left. I haven't seen you sharing my content. I know everyone who shares my content regularly. I haven't seen you commenting on my work. I haven't seen you sharing it out. I haven't seen you with my streams. I haven't seen you involved at all. So why are you coming around now saying, don't talk about my favorite influencer, just don't do it? Please, don't bullshit a bullshitter. I know what's going on. So if Chris Rufo wants to play this game, we can play this game. I play it better than anyone else on the internet, and I do it in a way where, these people like to pretend I'm not relevant. And yet they're all afraid of me, aren't they? If I'm so irrelevant, why are you all so afraid of me? If no one listens to me, and I don't get invited to the right parties, then why are they all so afraid of me? Hazel says, I learned so much from you when you decode the left. I learned nothing when you're feuding. Well, Hazel, have you watched the stream I did today for several hours talking about the left? Did you watch the stream I did yesterday for several hours talking about the left? Did you watch the stream I did the day before yesterday for several hours talking about the left? Did you watch Socialism Saturday this past week? Have you done the How to Speak Socialist class? Have you consumed the bashback content that I created? Have you consumed every podcast that I recorded this week talking about the left? Hazel, can you define capitalism for us, please? Can you let us know how the left defines capitalism? Can you let us know what the definition of queer theory is? If you can't answer yes to all of those questions, then fuck off. You don't get to police what I talk about, and you certainly don't get to tell me to not call out bad actors on the right until you have done everything. No one forced you to click on this live stream. See, the right likes to do this. This is a gaslighting technique on the right, where they have people that never show up to your streams, never share your content, but they come around every once in a while and they say, I just learned so much from you, and you are so amazing, and I learned so much from your content, and I'm the biggest supporter you've ever had, but can you please stop saying things about my favorite influencers? And then you look at that person's history and they're like, have never been to a stream, have never shared my content, aren't financial supporters of my work, Don't even know how the left defines capitalism. Hazel, can you tell us how the left defines capitalism if you're still in the chat? Please let us know how the left defines capitalism. This is the test. I will bet you all the money in my bank account Hazel has no idea how the left defines capitalism, which is like 101 level content. The reason I ask that is because if you actually watch my content, if you actually consume my content, you will know how the left defines capitalism. I talk about it literally all the time. So I can always suss out the people who come into my chat and they're like, I am your biggest supporter ever and I just love your content and I learned so much from your content, but can you just please stop talking about influencers that I really, really like? Because they're liars, they're gaslighters. They are not big consumers of my content. I promise you. Hazel, we're waiting for you to let us know how the left defines capitalism so you can show us all how much you really love my content and how much you really learn from it. Maybe she does know. Who knows? But regardless of if Hazel knows the correct answer or not, I will never stop calling out bad actors on the right because I firmly believe that bad actors on the right are the reason that the left will win. And I'm deadly serious about that. Every single time people like James Lindsay lie to the public, they are running cover for the left because the left gets to operate completely unopposed. They get to do whatever the fuck they want. No one does anything to stop them because their influencers are saying, we're winning, we're winning. Every time Christopher Rufo sends out a bunch of narrative driven tweets from his account, and actually look at the tweets that he sends out, by the way. I've been looking at his tweets for a long time. Actually look at the tweets he sends out. It's all a narrative. It's a PR strategy. That's all it is. It's not real. It's not grounded in reality. It's all a PR strategy to say, here are the things that I personally don't like. And here's me, Chris Rufo, being the savior of everyone to solve these problems that I've convinced you. And by the way, Chris Rufo doesn't even cover the real stuff. You guys understand that, right? This is another thing I didn't talk about. Christopher Rufo covers trickle down, low level DEI stuff. It's not even that interesting. I'll give you an example of this. Christopher Rufo did this big victory lap. I got the president of Harvard fired. Claudine Gay did get fired at Harvard. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. What Christopher Rufo doesn't talk about is Claudine Gay still works at Harvard as a professor where she makes $900,000 a year. Really think about that. Really think about that. I will give Chris Rufo and the Manhattan Institute full credit for getting Claudine Gay fired as president of Harvard. What he didn't tell his audience after he did victory lap after victory lap after, I got her fired, I got her fired, I got her fired, I did it, me, 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 me. He never told his audience that Claudine Gay is still at Harvard. She's actually in a more dangerous position now because she's a professor. She's teaching students and she makes $900,000 a year. But we're winning! We're winning! Guys, we're winning! We got the president of Harvard fired and she moved into a professor job where she actually has more access to students and she's making almost $1 million a year. But we're winning! We're winning! We defeated Harvard! And listen, he's the one pushing this whole defund Harvard thing, which I don't necessarily think is a bad thing. I don't think defunding Harvard is a bad thing. But is this actually solving the problem? Is this actually making a difference? Is this actually informing the public of what they need to know? Or is it just sweeping problems under the rug that are inconvenient? Is the new College of Florida just literally sweeping problems under the rug that are inconvenient, but those problems are still there? They're still buying 250 copies of Judith Butler's gender studies book, and no one on campus apparently thought that was a bad idea? Well, I think it's a bad idea. I don't like it. I don't like that the new College of Florida is doing this, and now I'm paying attention to something I wasn't paying attention to before. And now I'm paying attention to Christopher Rufo in a new way because I know emphatically that he doesn't actually care about solving the problem. He just cares about promoting himself. How sad. How sad to be in such a position where you have access to all this influence You have access to all this money. You have access to all these people that you can use in a really positive way to make progress on a problem. There was a time when Christopher Rufo did this. He used his access and his influence to actually make progress on a problem, and I will never take that away from him. Just like I won't take away from James Lindsay that James Lindsay's work used to be really good. I'm not going to be one of those people where when someone does something I don't like, I just say everything they do is horrible and they suck for a reason. I'm never, ever, ever going to do that. I will always give Rufo credit for what he's done. I really, really will. I think he's lost his way. And I think that in his focus to become the politician, he has lost his way and he's lost sight of what's important. I don't believe that Chris Rufo running for office is important. I don't think that's going to accomplish anything. I believe informing the public of what is going on to make sure they actually understand what's happening and to use the information and the resources we have to identify and actually solve problems. I think that's what's important. And if he's not going to do that, then he's not on my team. If he's going to run cover for the left and let his college, the new College of Florida, the supposed anti-woke College of Florida, buy 250 copies of Judith Butler's gender studies book and give it away to students for free, then he's running cover for the left and the left is still winning and they're still running circles around us. He basically handed Judith Butler a PR speaking gig for her to promote her ideology on the anti-woke campus. He tweeted out to his entire audience, "I heard this was a good and rigorous discussion," when it wasn't. Reagan says it makes me feel sick. A lot of them end up like this when they get too big. Well, I'll tell you, the money's good. Chris Rufo makes hundreds of thousands of dollars a year doing this. And good for him for doing it. Chris Rufo gets to go to the White House. And he's connected to Harmeet Dillon and all this stuff. And Harmeet Dillon focuses on all the stuff he sends her and doesn't focus on anything else. And by the way, don't think I'm not keeping a running list of all the things I sent to Harmeet Dillon that she's ignoring. Don't think that I haven't informed Harmeet Dillon on more than one occasion that the entire state of Vermont is rebelling against the Trump administration, that all the teachers' unions in Vermont are rebelling against the Trump administration to try to turn every school in Vermont into a sanctuary school. That's actually happening. I've documented it. Don't think I haven't informed Harmeet Dillon of every single time I get a teacher on tape talking about overtly defying the Trump administration. She knows all of it. Will anything ever happen with it? No! Because Harmeet Dillon is friends with Chris Rufo. And whatever Chris Rufo wants, Chris Rufo gets. And you know what? They can play that game if they want. That's fine. But don't think I'm not keeping a running list of that. And don't think that I won't talk about that someday. Because I'm done playing nice with these people. I have created everything I have independently from these people. I have created everything I have so that I don't have to be in their club. You know, I remember the only time I've been around Chris Rufo in person. It was at Dave Rubin's house. When was this? It must have been 2021. Something like that. I got invited to a party at Dave Rubin's house. And I went. And Christopher Rufo was there, and Dr. Drew was there, and Dr. Drew loved me, and Dr. Drew was standing beside me, and he was doing this to my shoulder. True story. His wife was standing right there, too. I was like, oh, okay. Well, whatever. I don't really care. He didn't do anything inappropriate. I'm just saying Dr. Drew was like, ooh. And he was like touching my shoulder like that. Anyway, that happened at Dave Rubin's house. Anyway, Chris Rufo was there, too. And I talked to him, and he said to me, so what do you want? What are you trying to get from me? Or something like that. And I said, nothing. Nothing. I'm good. It wasn't as though I've never had the opportunity to ask him for stuff. It wasn't as though I've never had the opportunity. I've just never wanted anything from these people. Because I never wanted to have to play this political game where what I'm putting out there publicly depends on the narrative that someone else wanted me to tell. And by the time this happened in 2021, the wheels were already turning, and I already figured out that the right was just a narrative driven machine, and that if I worked with any of these people politically, I was going to have to follow the narrative. I was going to have to follow the approved talking points. I never wanted that. And so I took the harder road of going completely independently. I built my own platform. I built my own audience. I built thousands of people who support my work, and I'm grateful for every single one of you across all my different platforms. I'm so grateful that you guys allow me to do what I do. Suzanne says Judith Butler's speaking fee is $5,000 to $10,000. That sounds about right. I wonder how much New College of Florida paid her. We're going to find out. So I say this to say that Chris Rufo has always known that I didn't want anything from him, that I was never going to play his game. I was always going to work outside the system. He chose to go within the system and follow the narrative. I chose to go my own way so that I could tell you guys the truth. And that is what I will always do, regardless of if you want to hear it. The friend that we had in the podcast, who, by the way, Hazel never defined how the left defines capitalism, which happens all the time, because Hazel doesn't know how the left defines capitalism, because Hazel isn't really an active consumer of my content. Hazel was just here to say, why are you talking about my influencers? My job is to show up and to tell you the truth and to show you the receipts. And that's it. The evidence does not follow a narrative. The evidence is what the evidence is. And right now, the evidence is that the New School of Florida brought Judith Butler to campus, probably paid her a speaking fee of $5,000 to $10,000, and also bought 250 copies of her gender studies book. And we are going to do the public records request, and we are going to find out exactly what communication happened and exactly how much they paid her and who made that decision and who thought that was a good idea, and all of it is going to be released on the internet. My job is to inform you. You decide what to do with that information. So it's always disappointing when stuff like this happens. It's always disappointing. All idols have clay feet, guys. Even me. I have clay feet too. I will inevitably do something that will disappoint people. I promise you. It's always disappointing when the people that we learn from, that inform us, let us down. And I always try to retain a little bit of hope that maybe someday they'll stop doing that. Maybe someday Chris Rufo will decide, you know what, I don't actually want to be a narrative shill for the rest of my career. And he'll come back to the real world. Now, he'll lose a lot of power and status and money if he does that. But he'll save his soul. He has to decide what's more important. I hold hope that maybe James Lindsay will stop acting like an insane retard on the internet. I hold hope that someday Fox News will start informing their audience of what's going on, instead of just feeding them all this slop that's so unhinged from reality, it's just not even funny. I hold out hope for a lot of people to say that maybe they'll do right. But until they do that, it doesn't change my job, which is to tell you the truth. And maybe if other people hear from people, maybe if these people hear from people like you, they'll rethink the road they're going down and actually refocus on the things that matter. Because to me, the thing that matters is the left is a fucking problem. The left is winning. We are losing. And I'm not going to pretend otherwise. The left is 5 to 10 years away from overthrowing the federal government, or at least trying. The Civil War will not be Democrat versus Republican. It will not be red versus blue. It will be radical revolutionary socialist versus the government. I promise you. They believe they're close. The left is moving their chess pieces into position right now. And while they're doing that, narrative shills like Christopher Rufo are lying to their audiences and saying, we're winning, we're winning, we're winning, when we're not. I think that's a problem. And I'm not going to stop talking about it. And if you don't like that, you don't have to be here. And that's just the way it goes. But I think I've pretty successfully avoided audience capture at this point, and so I'm not going to stop now. That's for sure. Anyway, those are my thoughts. If people have questions, leave them in the comments on the Substack. Make sure you subscribe to the Substack if you want to support the work I'm doing. Sign up for $8 a month, $80 a year. I am 100% funded by you guys, and we're going to be watching on the channel tomorrow. We're going to be watching a presentation about queer theory and Freud, and it's going to be great. And we're doing Queer Marxism Month, which is I'm covering a lot of queer Marxist content because it's Pride Month. So I hope you guys are enjoying the coverage. Make sure you're subscribed on the Substack. Make sure you're just subscribed on YouTube or Rumble. If you want to be there, come and join us for a live stream if you never have. I appreciate all your support. I appreciate you allowing me to do what I do. I'm going to go relax and get some work done. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.